Good morning guys, welcome to the webinar this morning. This is Grant Davidson here. I'm a Senior Applications Engineer here at TMS CADCentre, and yeah, once again guys, great to see some familiar names popping up on the webinar, and indeed a few new users as well. So today going to be having a look at what is new in SOLIDWORKS 2016. More specifically, we'll be having a run through, having a look at some assembly enhancements, some weldment enhancements, and also some simulation enhancements. So a really packed webinar for you this morning, so we'll go ahead and get started with it. Now first up, we're going to be having a look at assemblies. Now an area I'm sure an awful lot of you do still use, so it's great to see this area constantly enhancing. Now in 2016, the enhancements are really catered around productivity and speed. Now, first off, the Profile Center Mate, which was introduced in 2015, has now been added to the Quick Mates toolbar. All the controls for this mate are now available without having to access the Property Manager, including the lock rotation option for round selections as well. Also available is the Symmetric Mate when 3 selections are made, as well as the Width Mate when 4 selections are made. So some really nice little quick enhancements there. Now, if you guys can remember back in SOLIDWORKS 2015, we introduced the ability to replace a lost mate reference that was used by multiple components. For instance, when this bracket was bored out, the face used for mating was removed, resulting in failed mates. After editing one of those mates to the part, you were then prompted to repair all the other mates to that face. Now in 2016, this tool has been extended to include mates to a component that is used multiple times. Using the new selection tool to select identical components, you can see we've got 3 knobs in this assembly. If I change this to a new version with a different stud, you can see once again we get mating errors. Now I can edit the failed mate of just one of those components, and SOLIDWORKS will give me the option to replace all the missing references to all the other components. A huge time saver. Now, when working with assemblies with many degrees of freedom, it can be a challenge to position the components without resorting to adding in additional mates. In 2015, we introduced a temporary fix and group components tool to reduce the degrees of freedom when using the move component command. For 2016, we're making this tool much more accessible by placing it directly in your right mouse menu. Select the items you want to fix or group, and this temporary mode will behave similar to the isolate command. Now, in SOLIDWORKS 2016, you can copy and paste multiple components at once, which is just fantastic. An enhancement I know an awful lot of you have been asking for quite some time, now possible in 2016. Previously, as I'm sure you're aware, we would have had to copy each and every one of these components individually, and therefore we'd need to add all our mates in manually. This can now be done through the menus or with a simple Control-C, Control-V. Really easy. When inserting a component, it's now possible to select the desired configuration immediately. No more faffing about having to change it once it's in place. Choose your configuration, get it straight in. When using the Mate command, the first selection now changes the display to transparent, enabling you to see and select items that may be obscured by the first selection. For example, to make these 2 cylindrical holes, it's much easier to select the internal component, and mating this thrust washer is just as easy as well. Now, another really commonly requested enhancement is the ability to show a component in a separate window whilst mating it. This is now possible using the new component preview window and can make adding mates much easier. Notice the previewed component becomes transparent, allowing selections to be easily made as well. Fantastic tool. Should have a look at that one for yourself, guys. Virtual components have always been a great way to store components internal to an assembly and minimize the amount of files you have on disk. When making a subassembly virtual, you now have the option to make the subassembly and all of its child components virtual in one step. A huge time saver. You'll notice over in the tree here that I am now renaming one of my components, and yep, it is true. When we rename a component or subassembly in an assembly in SOLIDWORKS 2016, we no longer need to open it in its own window. This can be done directly from the Feature Manager. SOLIDWORKS will let you know that the rename is temporary and will be permanent when it gets saved. Opening parts in their own window is still just a right click away, but now it's even better because when you select that option, you can now drill down into the file structure so you can access sub-assemblies, parts, and so on. So a nice enhancement there. Notice opening this assembly in its own window, you can see it's been renamed. When I hit the Save button, SOLIDWORKS will allow you to simply execute the rename or access the where used information and update any references where this subassembly may be used by searching through any folders that you choose. The component preview window has many other beneficial uses. For instance, if we copy and paste these two parts using standard Windows hotkeys, we can use the component preview window to see the internal areas of the model. Let's make the nut to the pivot bracket, and since it's transparent, you're able to select through it and make the conical face of the screw to the vertical pin. And you're done. So easy. A new command has been added for 2016 that allows you to purge unused features in a model. Any parts that are suppressed in all configurations are listed, and any assembly features that are unused are listed as well. SOLIDWORKS will warn you that these features may be used in other models and should be deleted with caution. The same capability is also available in part mode as well. Features that are suppressed in all configurations are listed, and any sketches or reference geometry are available to be removed if you're sure they're not used elsewhere. And finally, when working with toolbox components, you now have a brand new favorites folder to store probably not your favorite nuts and bolts, but perhaps the most commonly used items. Simply drag and drop them to the favorite folder and they're ready to go. A big time saver is that multiple toolbox components can now be edited in one go, but we'll see that in just a moment. Let's add 3 instances of this bolt here, and then we're suddenly going to decide that we need that bolt to be a little bit longer. Previously, we would have had to do them one at a time, but now box select them, pull our little dynamic arrow out, and you can see I can make multiple adjustments in the one operation. Doesn't stop there. If I edit the toolbox component, I can actually completely change the fastener type and use, which is just fantastic. We don't need to delete them out anymore, just to re-add them. Really good. The mates can then be quickly repaired using the replace mate capability discussed earlier. Just replace the concentric and coincident mate of one component and SOLIDWORKS will take care of the rest. With so many enhancements in SOLIDWORKS 2016, I'm sure your assembly productivity is going to be improving. Any questions on any of this, guys, please get in touch with us. I'll be happy to discuss it with you. Now, on to weldments. Again, an area very much used by our customer base. So again, great to see some enhancements in this area as well. So designing structures in SOLIDWORKS has always been fast and easy. And 2016 does just add some great little enhancements to help get the job done faster. First, when you're creating structural members, the size list is now sorted numerically, and the 2 most recently used sizes you'll find are located at the top. Another really big improvement is the ability to transfer material straight from the library profile feature into the structural member. This really reduces any wasted effort or errors that can sometimes occur in your mass property calculations. In the feature manager, structural members are now given a more descriptive name based on the type and size property. Hovering over a member also gives a convenient tooltip with the same convention. Previously, 2015 introduced the ability to quickly and easily create end caps, such as this internal example. 2016 extends this, and you can now modify and position the end cap using reference dimensions without the need to even edit the feature, even on a curved beam such as this. Pretty cool. Another great enhancement in 2016 is the ability to hide individual bodies, not just parts, using the tab key. This applies to surface bodies as well as solid bodies. A simple shift tab will perform an unhide, just like parts. Cut lists are a simple yet powerful way to understand all the aspects of your structural design. And in SOLIDWORKS 2016, the Properties page now maintains individual column widths and overall dialog sizes. Many customers do use derived parts to copy structural designs into individual separate parts. After selecting the items to transfer through and checking the option to transfer your cut list properties, the new part is generated. And brand new in SOLIDWORKS 2016 is the ability to interrogate your cut list and see the total length for each individually sized member, meaning you can easily see at a glance how much of each section will be required to build the structure. All of these enhancements really help you realize your designs faster and more accurately in 2016. And finally guys, personally, my favourite area of CAD, we're going to have a look at a bit of simulation. And 2016 was a particularly big year for SOLIDWORKS simulation, so I'm really delighted to take you through some really nice enhancements here. Let's have a look. So really, 2016 delivers improved controls over sequencing the movement of parts and mesh quality. In this side release clip, it's important to verify the performance of the clip for the insertion and release operations. Verifying the operation in 2016 is a breeze with a new intermittent fixture capability. The fixture that inserts and removes the clip pushes it over half a second, holds it in the inserted position briefly, and then pulls the clip back out in the final quarter second. The fixture that presses in the side release only needs to be active after the insertion, and until it starts being pulled out, it doesn't need to be active again. This ability to turn the fixture on or off at specific times makes this operation easy. The benefit of sequencing is that the calculated loads are accurate for the entire operation and no artificial stresses are induced. We can then be confident in the resultant performance data and ensure it meets our design needs. In the animation, we can see the insertion, the side clip's being pressed in, and then finally the clip is being pulled back out, allowing us to confidently determine the forces needed for these operations and ensuring that they meet our requirements. Now this housing mount in the robotic arm is used to transfer a mixture of bending and torque loads. If you're wondering where this one has come from, it's from the robot Baxter, the red robot that you may see on all the 2016 information. This is one of the sections from it. Now it's important that we have accurate stresses, of course, which means ensuring that there's a sufficient detail level in high stress areas, such as any cutout regions. In 2016, we now have the ability to section the mesh to provide insight into the internal mesh structure. This ability makes it easy to ensure that you have the desired mesh density at any location in the model. The mesh cross-section can also be viewed on result plots using two methods to provide additional insight. One method is using the mesh section capability to highlight the elements that intersect with the section plane. This really adds a benefit of seeing the result variation across the elements. This can be adjusted to show only the intersecting elements or interactively drag through the model. The second method projects the mesh onto a section clipping plane of a result plot. By providing detailed mesh information in the plane of interest, you can ensure that the mesh density accurately accounts for the stress variation and the results have met your accuracy requirements. You've probably been in a situation in the past where SOLIDWORKS Simulation Solver has given an error message about a model having insufficiently restrained degrees of freedom. Let's have a look. So you've probably seen something along these lines before, and it can be very frustrating because it doesn't really give you many leads to go off of. The message that it gives you is a little bit generic and it doesn't highlight any area of the model. However, this all changes in SOLIDWORKS 2016. You now have the added capability of detecting unconstrained degrees of freedoms. This feature performs a simplified analysis to identify which bodies are not fully restrained and will provide us with feedback on the specific degrees of freedom that are left in the model. What you'll see is that each body is listed along with the specific freedoms, and selecting any of those freedoms will animate the body on screen, providing clear feedback on not only what the problem is, but also where the problem is actually occurring. It's a magic tool. As you can see, there are lots of bodies in this model that are completely free to move. The reason for that is that there are weld gaps accounted, allowing us to design in our tolerances. This is very commonly done, and I'm sure some of you may leave weld gaps in your models as well. Previously, in 2015, this would be a problem. However, in 2016, we can account for weld gaps. We have a new option to automatically account for edge shell bonding within a certain gap size. Activating this setting allows the model to solve without any problems. Now, these are just 3 of the great simulation capabilities in 2016 that provide you with more control, greater insight into your design performance, and better problem model troubleshooting. There is, however, much more to have a look at, and when you do get your hands on 2016, certainly have a play with them all and get in touch with us. Always happy to have a chat. And that does conclude our webinar for today, sadly, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. We will be running one more 2016 intro webinar. That's going to take place 2 weeks today, so a fortnight today. We would love to see you there. And once again, guys, we're very grateful for the high numbers we do get attending our technical webinars here. It's fantastic to see so many users returning fortnight after fortnight. And at the same time, we're always getting new users joining. So if you have a colleague who you think may benefit from it, certainly pass that link on and get them attending. Thank you once again, guys. This has been Grant Davidson, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a great weekend. Cheers.